Hi and good evening. Welcome to yet another episode of the Jampot Adda. Let me see if you can guess this. What is common between the movie Swades, the TV show Movers and Shakers, and the very popular Amir Khan ad of Coca-Cola? Yeah, you've guessed it right. The cinematographer. And he's none other than our guest this evening, Mr. Mahesh Aney. Mahesh sir has been a national award winning cinematographer and an alumnus of FTII. He has been the man behind the camera for several successful advertisements like Cinthol soap, Onida TV, Johnnie Walker, Feviqik, and the list goes on. Not just advertisements. He has been a cinematographer for successful movies and TV shows like Swades, Dhoom, Bindaas Bol, Movers and Shakers, Shukno Lonka, a Bengali movie, and many more. Here's a short montage put together by another fellow Jamshedpurian, Suvikram Bedi.
यूं ही चला चल रही यूं ही चला चल रही कितनी हसीन है ये दुनिया फूल सारे झमेले देख फूलों के मेले बड़ी रंगीन है ये दुनिया रुम दुम दाना रत दुम दाना रुम दुम दाना रत दुम दाना रुम दुम दाना रत दुम दाना भैया na 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 hey 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 देखो जिधर भी इन राहों में रंग पिघलते हैं निगाहों में ठंडी हवा है ठंडी छाँव है दूर वो जाने किसका गाँव है यूं ही चला चल रही यूं ही चला चल रही कितनी हसीन है ये दुनिया फूल सारे झमेले देख फूलों के मेले बड़ी रंगीन है ये दुनिया ये रास्ता है कह रहा अब मुझसे मिलने को है कोई कहीं अब तुझसे रुम दुम दाना रत दुम दाना रुम दुम दाना रत दुम दाना रुम दुम दाना रत दुम दाना भैया सनी सा गा 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 मा 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 रे 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 सनी सा सा सनी सा सा सनी सा गा गा सा मा मा सा पा सनी सा सा सनी सा सा यूं ही चला चला सनी सा सा सनी सा सा कितनी हसीन ये दुनिया
Cut.
Today, Mr. Aney is settled in Mumbai with his wife Anjali and two children, Aditya and Aarti. From his days of being a naughty kid in Jamshedpur to becoming a successful cinematographer in Mumbai, Mahesh sir shares his experiences as he gets up close and personal with our Adda host Sukanya. Over to you, Sukanya.
Thank you, Mahesh sir, for taking time out for us at Jampot Adda. And we are honored to have a national award-winning cinematographer with us today. So do we start our gupshup, Mahesh sir?
Yeah, anytime. All ready to go. Yeah.
Okay. Mahesh sir, you've been a cinematographer. So how would you describe cinematography to a layman? Because most people, are not aware that this is an integral part of filmmaking.
Uh, Photography. Okay. Basic. The word is photography. And then came around moving pictures, which was cinema. So any man who was photographing cinema became a cinematographer. So that's as easily as I can put it down to. So basically, I am a guy who shoots moving pictures, unless you freeze it and then watch it, Yeah, that's right.
How did you choose cinematography as a career? Because, way back, I would say early 70s, it was not a sought after career choice that many would have thought for.
Yeah, well, I finished, I was studying at Sydenham. I was doing BCom. Uh, and I was, my electives were management. That's what I was doing, because I was very, very bad at maths and very bad at accountancy. So I could never be a CA. There are a lot of things in life I could never be. So the choice was, like even way back in school, when you came to the ninth standard, they divided into two parts. Half of us, I mean, all the good guys went to the science classes. Yeah. And all the bloody duckans like me went to the arts. So I had no choice. So I was put into BCom because that was probably the only thing that was available to me at that point. And somewhere along the line, by the time I came to my second year, I started getting fairly interested in watching films. And there was no internet, there was no stuff like that. So you had to actually go to a theater to watch films. And we used to watch a lot of films in the theater when I was in college. But this whole thing goes back to school, goes back to Loyola, which used to happen, which used to have screenings every Saturday. Obviously, as kids, we love to watch war movies, we love to watch westerns, we wanted to see cowboy, red Indians, all that. And there was one day, one Saturday, when they were supposed to play a film called 12 Angry Men. And 12 Angry Men, by the name, sounds like a western, you know. So we all very thrilled. I must have been in the 8th or the ninth, I think. I was quite young, yeah. 8th or the ninth. Then once we got into the auditorium and then the film started. And when the film started, you suddenly realize, everybody realized that this is not a western. This is some 12 people sitting and yakking. Okay. So I think almost the entire hall emptied out. I don't know what happened to me. I got hooked onto that film and I watched it. And I really watched it. And I even watch it today. It's one of the finest films ever made. And that was probably one of a very crucial turning point for me. And there were a number of films which made me eventually go into wanting to make films or wanting to shoot film. But this was probably one of the first ones. Then when I came to college, and at the same time, my brother at that time, my elder brother, was studying law at the Pune Law College. And I happened to go to Pune one weekend. And he told me, Chalo, let's go and see a film at FTII today. So we went. And I think in 1974, I saw a film called Aguirre, the Wrath of God. It's a film made by Herzog. And it has Klaus Kinski and stuff like that. And I came out completely stoned. When I stepped out of the hall, I didn't know what had hit me. It was a phenomenal film. Now, these were the 2-3 turning points which got me very interested in filmmaking. And so when I was in final year and when everybody was busy applying for XLRI and trying to get into IIMs and Bajaj and all these places, I applied for FTII and I got into FTII. I was called for the interview at TISS. My dad's ex-TISS, so my interview was quite a breeze over there. But when it came to taking the final choice, I said I'm going to go to the institute. And the people who supported me were my parents. Not with one word did they say, no, you don't do this and you don't do that. Because way back then, I still remember a lot of my dad's friends saying, किधर भेज रहा है अपने बेटे को, फिल्म में क्या करेगा and all that, and that's how I winded up joining FTI, and I joined FTI incidentally for direction, because I couldn't have joined for camera. I mean, this is the funny part of it. I keep telling everybody I'm not technically qualified to be a cinematographer. Yeah, because you need to be a science student, But I got into FTI, and we were a very small batch that year. We were, instead of 70 students, they only took 15 of us. And we trained in all aspects of filmmaking for the first 2 years. And then you took you took a choice of your department. So that's how I switched to camera. But technically, when I joined FTI, I joined in for direction. So that's how I finished FTI and set off on course from there on.
When you were growing up, while of course, films, you were initiated into films, be it Loyola School or later on, when you came to study in Mumbai. But did you dabble with still cameras at that point in time? Somewhere, photography, cameras.
Yes. Very not too much, because photography is very expensive. I mean, we did have a camera at home, and which we'd shoot pictures when we went on holidays, or maybe in a year, probably I could cajole my dad to give me one roll of film. Like I said, photography was not an cheap hobby to have, because every time you bought a roll, you had to process it, you had to print it, everything cost money, so it wasn't something that many parents would have supported, and I don't think many of us were really interested in that, because I mean, who's going to go into a dark room and do what? So that sort of a thing. But what essentially was a great thing about Jamshedpur was, as we were growing up, it was one city that threw up a lot of things to you. I mean, if there was a city that gave me or gave anyone, any of us, a holistic development, then it was Jamshedpur. Because whether it was going up the hills to trek, or you wanted to cross the river in the morning, when we used to stay in Kadma, we used to walk down to the river and cross over and go towards the Adityapur side, and or if you wanted to learn how to play golf, whatever you wanted to do, the city gave it to you. It did have. I mean, look at the amount we cycled. Look at the amount we walked. I live nowadays in Alibag because it was lockdown. So, every evening I walk with my dogs, I go up the hill. So there's so much to be done. And all this is because we got an opportunity to do it when we were kids. I don't ever remember spending time at home. As a matter of fact, you have to be dragged back home every evening, I mean, suppose if I'm playing, say, in Abir Chakravarti's house or in Vijay Trehan's house, there would come a time when the mom would come out, Vijay's mom or somebody would come out and say, go home, and then you'd go back. Or if they were all in my place, at some point my mom would say, okay, now guys, go home. But the thing was, everybody was out. I mean, things have changed. I see my granddaughters today. They're all, they're so busy with their little phones and computers and iPads and things like that. But then that is life. I don't, I'm not complaining about it, because even today, a lot of my work is based on the computer and stuff like that. Jamshedpur as a city was probably the best thing that happened to all of us as children. And it's such a wonderful city, and at that particular time in time, there was a congregation of people from all over the country. So it wasn't just a Bihari city or a Bengali city or whatever. It was completely cosmopolitan. When it came to our friends, it came to whether it were our teachers or whatever. So it was a complete melting pot of many cultures, and I think all that came on us somewhere, and all of us have thrived and imbibed on that. So many things. I mean, whether it was Holi, or whether it was a Bengali New Year, or whether it was Diwali, or whether it was a Marathi festival like Gudi Padwa, it used to be across the city. It used to be across the town, So people were involved. And of course, despite being what the city was, you mustn't forget that it was really a small town. It was not a big town. So there was always this huge amount of human interaction. If you remember, we used to stay on B Road, just behind the United Club. Now, A Road and B Road, the houses face the road. But at the back of the houses, there was another lane that went past, between the two houses, between the two rows, where there was a life by itself. And this is exactly what it is, like the restaurants in Jamshedpur. When we were small, Kadma had a Chinese family that used to, this is before Franks came up. There was a small Chinese family whom we would visit, and they'd cook a meal for you. No matter where I travel in the world, no matter where I go, no matter where I order a fried rice, I'm looking for that taste still, So it's that sort of thing. So there were a lot of, the Madrasi Hotel, soda fountain. It used to be a treat to go out. My parents would go for shopping on Sunday, and we would all hang around in the cars in the evening, knowing that before you went back home, you'd get to eat one quality ka ice cream. The three of us was to be put in the car, so we used to be sitting at the back, and we used to wait for the time to see. My dad would be and my mom would be walking across, and the quality, apna Vipin Lamba's quality wala guy walking with a little holder, in which there were 3 cones. And of course, I can never forget the contribution the clubs have made to our lives. The clubs of Jamshedpur, You just play tennis all afternoon, swim all evening, and then as we grew bigger, we started playing billiards, So by the time you were about, say, 14, they would let you into the billiards room. So there was the last table. That's where we all learned how to play billiards. And when I look at some of my classmates, my seniors, Kenneth De Cruz and all these guys were master players. Yeah. Even today, I'm sure at that age, Kenneth would have been probably better than Michael Ferreira, I'm sure. So this is a lot of things that the city gave to us. And the other thing is, because the city was maintained so beautifully, because the city was kept so well, because there was a sense of cleanliness, we all learned, all this was imbibed to us, and it wasn't taught to us. Now, when I talk to people like this and I tell them this is what the city was, they think it's a little unreal. Yes, I think Jamshedpur was a bloody unreal city, it still is. I remember once that I was coming back from school, and that Bahadur was carrying me on his shoulder. And I don't know for what reason, I was poking a pencil on his head, Okay, and my sister immediately went and complained to my mother, man, I had a tough time. I was made to stand out for 3 hours, and I had to apologize to him about 100 times. A lot of things came up, I don't know. As I keep talking, I can keep remembering things. I was in Calcutta last year I was on the Oscars committee. So we had gone there for the selection. And on the way back, I said, hey, guys, fly me out of Ranchi. Don't let me go back. So I went to Jamshedpur. So my buddy Vijay Trehan, I don't know if you know Vijay Trehan, he came, collected me from I normally stay with him because we were planning to do a film in Jamshedpur. So I was calling my scriptwriter over. And then we did an entire recce of the city. And suddenly I realized how much the city has changed. The city has changed enormously, and of course for the better. It's beautiful. Whatever they have done is fantastic. Then we went to Nildi because we stayed in Nildi for a couple of years. So went to have a look at Nildi, and then, my friend, Captain PJ Singh, he put me in a special car and drove me around right through Telco. My wife was there with us, so it was a great thing. So every trip back to Jamshedpur is always such a delight. It's such a delight, and it brings back such fond memories. The next 3 days is just filled with lunches, dinners, a lot of old stories, a lot of gali, galocha, shouting, screaming, booze, more booze, and more booze. Fortunately, I've stopped drinking now, so most of them were cursing me. So anyway, so that's how the city was. Yeah.
So you grew up in the city early 70s, 60s, early 70s, and then you left and you went back last year again and moved to do a recce for your film. So,
Yeah,
when are we getting to watch that film? When is that project going to be launched?
wonderful. Thank you for bringing it up. I'm looking for a producer. Are there any are there any rich Jamshedpur people who would like to invest in my film? Please do. It's a lovely little story. It's about a boy and his cycle. And the catalyst of the story, of course, the protagonist is this little boy and how he loses the cycle and what the cycle means to somebody else. It gets stolen by another kid and stuff like that. So it's a very nice. Now, this was originally written for Bangalore and Pune. But then as I thought about it, I said, Ki, this makes so much sense. So now I have sort of rewritten the story to fit into Navamundhi and Jamshedpur. So the child is growing up in Navamundhi. That's where he loses his cycle. They get transferred to Jamshedpur. And his father forgets the cycle in Navamundhi. And then there's that whole thing about they find another cycle in their new house in Jamshedpur. And that's how the story goes. I don't know if you remember... if you remember Tata Steel ka films that were made many years ago, हम इस्पात भी बनाते हैं. Now, in that, among those 8 films, 2 films were made by me. The Bachendripal, the mountaineering film, was done by me, and the Tata Sports Academy, the football film. So these were the 2 films I had made, and when I came to shoot the films, I was so comfortable. Because even before I had left with my unit for Jamshedpur, I knew where my locations were. I knew under which dip I'm going to put my camera so that in Jubilee Park, I'm going to see all these cycles coming up. There is so much more to Jamshedpur. I mean, more than just the pretty city. I'm talking about the people. The people who live in Jamshedpur are of a different breed by themselves.
Coming to Swadesh, that's where
Yeah.
you got a national award for
Right.
film. What was the experience working with a Shah Rukh Khan or an Ashutosh Gowariker, and being on the list of the national awardees? What was the feeling at that point in time? Did you expect that coming in, or it was a pure surprise?
No, I didn't expect it, but what was the huge surprise? What normally national awards don't come to commercial cinema so easily. So when Swades got an award, and actually I got a call from my classmate Shankar Mohan, who was then the head of what is that? The Indian Film Festival Board. It's called IFI. So he was the head of there, and he told me, Mahesh, he's my batchmate from FTII. So he said, you got the national award. I said, wow. And I said, yeah, Shanks, I don't believe this. Yeah, So he says, nahi, about deliberation hua aur acha hua, because Swades, if you recall, was not a successful film when it was released. It had flopped. If a film sinks, everybody sinks with the film. So Swades was this very strange thing. People remember Swades. Now that's a very strange thing for a film, How long can people hold on to the memory of a film? So there is something very magnetic about that film. And that magnetism, I think, Shah Rukh put into the film. And working with Shah Rukh, I've done commercials with him. So it wasn't as though I didn't know him. I mean, we were known to each other. Ashu also, I had shot all the Coke commercials with him, all the Amir Khan ka commercials, Panch and all those. So we've known each other. We've all worked together. So it wasn't as though I was thrown into a completely new place or a new set of people around me or whatever. So therefore, even when we were shooting Swades, I think the association between all of us, the whole unit, me, Ashu, and all of us, it was phenomenal, and it was. We have great memories. I mean, I tell you, there's so many funny things that happened during Swades. We were shooting. This is about the second day, second day of shoot, and there was, Ashu was in. There's what is known as a video tent. That's where the director sits. The director is normally about maybe 100 yards away from the shoot, because he sits in this little tent which is nice and cool, and we are in the sun. So we were outside, and there was a close-up of Shah Rukh. So I may have been about 10 feet away from him with my camera. And he would say a line, and then Ashu would say, no, 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 no. No, Shah, let's do it like this. Shah, let's do it like this. Shah, don't do this. Shah, don't turn your head. Shah, don't use your dimples. All that. So I think I don't forget, I think it was some take 7, take 8. And Shah Rukh just leans out from the camera and tells me, listen, dude, I'm not going to act in this shot. So I said, yeah, sure, man. You do what you want. You're the boss, And he did the shot. He did the shot and he leaned out and asked me, Kaisa laga? This, suddenly from the video tent, we hear say, okay, perfect, So that's how it was. And Ashutosh also is an extremely patient director. Extremely patient. He just, nothing perturbs him. And then if it doesn't work, okay, we'll do it again. And no, we can do it again. No, Mahesh, we can do it again. Let's try it one more. So sometimes I used to lose it. Yeah. These are the little things that go along when you're making a film, and it's a lot of fun when I think of it today. It's great fun. At that moment, you're shouting at each other and screaming, but it's wonderful,
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about some, ad films that you've done, as many ad films.
Yeah.
Which have been the most memorable ad films that you've worked on? You mentioned a few brands, of course, right now when we were talking about this.
Huh.
But which, from your experience that you've worked on, your 3 memorable ad films?
Yeah, my most memorable ad film actually. Okay, Doodh Doodh. You remember that? I think every child growing up has seen Doodh Doodh. We shot it over 6 days. That is the action part of it, and about 2 days only for the pack shots, because we were not doing computer generation. So everything had to be done live. So that was one great film. I mean, it's memorable because I think they still run it today. Even today, people, I mean, they have just created another one trying to create that Dudu effect, but it doesn't work, that old film. Then the other film, which, of course, which won a lot of awards, was the guy catching Machi, the Feviqik. Yeah. So that was directed by Prasoon Pandey. Yeah. And I had shot it. Highlight was the producer. In that film, one of the most memorable things was the Una, Muna, Renda, Nala, the guy going. No, that was something that I added to the film. So when he was coming in that Mundu and all, I had just done some, I think I was in Kerala or something. I suddenly remembered 1, 2, 3, 4. So I told Prasoon, let's go, let's do the Muna, Renda, Nala. And they kept that. So that became such a hit, So there are a lot of things. Then, which is the other film that's really very popular? I mean, all the Coke films, of course, the America. For example, the shot of the Coca-Cola inside the well. Do you remember the pack shot? Yeah. Now, when you look at it, it looks very simple. I remember we were shooting this in Polachi because we didn't have sugarcane anywhere else. So we had to get to a place which had sugarcane. Polachi had sugarcane that time. But if you look far away, you'll see coconut trees. So you don't see in Punjab where are the coconut trees. There's a bucket which comes and settles inside this is after he's pulled out the bucket. Everybody drinks the thing and then the bucket is put back into the well. So it settles down. That's the pack shot. There's bubbles coming up. And now that is actually shot inside a almost an 8 feet by 8 feet water tank, which is made out of glass. Okay. Now the art department puts the sand and all and, stones and whatever. Then we have created a false well wall behind the glass around the tank. So it looks like there's a stone wall at the back. And there is a pulley which is tied so that the bucket comes exactly and stops here. It stops here because otherwise, with the force, it will break the glass. So it has to stop there, but it has to hit just enough so that there is sand coming out of the bottom. Then how do you put bottles inside the thing? So there is a forma made. It's actually a metal bucket, which has got a wooden slats put on the side to make it look like a wooden bucket. And there is one circle which has got holes in it, in which we have jammed the bottles. and some straw. So that's how the thing is created. And then for the lights, what we had done is I had used a light called a parkan, what you see on the stage, those beam lights. Yeah, you know what parkans are. Yeah. So we had the parkans on top, which was creating the rays of the sun coming into the well. And on the left of frame, I had a blue gel with the silver at the back, on which we were bouncing a light and we were moving that silver. So it was creating sort of ripples, which you see behind onto the wall of the well. So when all this was done, uh, we wanted to shoot. So we had put in water and then we came in there and then we realized that this is BMC government water and you couldn't see anything. So we had to pump out all the water and load in some 60,000 liters of Bisleri into it, and that's when we took the shot. When unfortunately, the first 4 takes, the water was too clear. So what Ashu has done is actually use take number 4, where the water's got a little muddy.
So, which means you've seen an evolution of, an era where it was pure camera work and creativity, manual creativity, to a computer-generated graphic era.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
it's a complete, a shift from when you started to what it is today. And I'm sure what you mentioned right now, where about the pack shot, today's era, it possibly would have been a little easier than, about even a decade, 15 years back, when you had to really do a manual kind of arrangement to get the effect you wanted.
See, I like digital. As a matter of fact, I'm one of the few guys who really enjoyed digital. I mean, the new kids are enjoying it. My first digital film was Shirin Farhad Ki Nikal Padi. That's about, I think about 11, 12 years ago, maybe, yeah, about, I think 2009, 2010. Now, at that time, I remember Sanjay Bansali was my producer, and every morning I used to come to the office. Bela was directing his sister, so I sit down to do work with Bela. And when Sanjay would walk in and say, "Hey, Mahesh, have you checked the camera?" So one day I lost it. I said, "Listen, we're shooting this on film, so why you keep telling me to check the digital camera?" So I trudged off to Film City, where Prime Focus had their office, and Mr. Gauri Shankar then spent about 6 hours with me, trying to explain the camera to me, and I decided to go with digital, which was a great thing, because if I had not changed at that time, I think I would have gone back into, I would have probably stopped working today, because ultimately, see, it's not, I agree, it's not the digital or the film part of it. This is what Mr. Gauri Shankar explained to me. See, the technique of cinematography doesn't change. You're still going to be using your light meter. You still light the way you want. So what are you worried about? He says, you have bad boys now. I have a whole team of kids who are actually capturing the data, who are downloading it and whatever it is. And, see, it's not like a film camera, which is very simple, huge, big camera, but, there are just 3 aspects to it, your film speed, your shutter angle, and the speed at which your film is running. So very basic thing. But here in these cameras, you touch a button and some 40 menus open up here, so you can change anything. So I'm very scared. But so what we do now, I always have one assistant from the FTII, who's my assistant. His job is to set up the camera for me in the morning. So, you have to go through, because what happens is it's a digital thing. When you switch off, sometimes things change. So it's not necessary the parameters you're shooting with yesterday would be what you're going to be shooting today. So everything needs to be reconfirmed and rechecked once in the morning. So I always have a kid who does that. And his job is also to check all the footage that we load. At the end of the day, he has to sit with the DIT, and DIT, yeah. So the DIT will have to sit and then confirm every shot, and then he'll come and tell me shot number 3 out focus gaya hai, or whatever, So all that sort of a thing, yeah. So I'm glad I shifted, actually. I mean, I thank Sanjay Bansali for pushing me towards it.
You mentioned about Shirin Farhad.
Yeah,
that was a film again, which was pretty popular, and it became popular over a period of time. A lot of people went to watch, and they really liked it. How was it working with Baman Irani? He was the lead in that, along with Farah.
Yeah, I see. Farah, of course, I've known for many years. I mean, so I've known Baman also. You know, Baman was a still photographer before he became an actor. I mean, he was always an actor, but before he became this big star. So Baman has come on my sets to shoot. Uh, uh, you know, when we used to shoot ad films, very often the pack shots, once we were done, the still photographer would do the pack shots there, or maybe, you know, there was a still frame to be required for the print media, then they'd use the part of the set. So Baman, I think, has worked with me a couple of times earlier. And uh, Farah, I've known from the time she was a young dancer. And amongst her earliest films as a choreographer, you know, Tata Namak, you remember Namak Hai, Tata Namak. So that was all choreographed by Farah. So there was a lot of ease on the set because you know each other. Also, the thing is that you respect each other's work because I know of Boman's work. Otherwise, I mean, I hadn't worked with him for maybe 15 years. But then, you know, you sort of pick up strings from wherever you are. And it's great, I think, because all these people, they are all thinking actors today. You know, like all technicians who are now in filmmaking, particularly this newer lot, you know, is everybody is so involved and wants to contribute. So you won't have somebody just, you know, it's not like what it was when I came 40 years back in the industry, where scripts used to be written on the set. मैंने इधर शॉट चल रहा है और अगले सीन का डायलॉग लिख रहे हैं बैठ के. That didn't happen. That doesn't happen anymore. Today, no actor is going to come on board if you don't have a script. No producer is going to take on your film if you don't have a bound script. So suddenly in cinema, in Indian cinema, a lot has changed. Suddenly writers have become very important.
Coming to movers and shakers, how did that happen? And we cannot not have a conversation on movers and shakers.
You know, I had a friend called Sudesh Iyer. We call him Mani Iyer. Mani Iyer was the man who brought Sony to India.
Right.
Ex-advertising guys. And he used to, while we used to shoot all his Nirma Sabun and all these films, he used to tell us, listen, I'm telling you, watch television. You know? And he came. I mean, Mani was missing for a year and a half. We didn't know where the heck he disappeared. And suddenly he came back and Sony was in India, you know. And then he had set up a company called Magic Box, which is part of his group, where he called me in and he said, come on, you have to start directing in television. So before I did Movers and Shakers, I did a show called Bindaas Bol. Bindaas Bol was Amol Gupta was my compere, you know. It was a talk show for teenagers, you know. And I picked up things from David Letterman and stuff like that. We had made a circular set. So Amol could walk and run up and down and go this side. So there were no sides to the set. We broke a lot of rules. I had like 5 cameras. So, you know, I was cutting from any side to any side. You know, because I'm talking about 25 years ago, 23 years ago, or 24 years ago. You know, maintaining a continuity was something very, very vital. You didn't really cross the line. In the flow of the show, nobody will realize you're cutting reverse. And it worked. So when we finished that, and then they were coming up with Movers and Shakers. So Mani said, like, why don't you come on the meeting? Main man behind Movers and Shakers is not Mahesh Aney. It's a guy called Shailesh Dave. He's the guy who has created Movers and Shakers because Shailesh really understood television. I'm telling you, even today, I really don't understand television. I don't understand television, or I don't understand programming. That's not my skill at all. I get very bored when you start talking to me like that. I can create a show, I can make a show, and then I run away. Like I did with a lot of my other shows. You know, like I did Harmony, there was an unplugged music show. Then I did a show called Kya Masti Kya Dhoom, which was the first big dance show in India. Now, I used to set up shows. I did my first 17, 18 episode, said bye and went, because my sugars would shoot up. Yeah. So Movers and Shakers was something that, you know, we started literally in a room upstairs in Mani's office, you know, in where the in-house studio used to be. They had given me the terrace office where I had 8 excellent young writers. They were wackos, yeah. And they're all great writers today. When I talk of, say, Mahesh Ramchandani R.D. Telang. Then I'm talking Khalsi. I mean, these guys were Sanju Talpade. They were crazy writers, we used to get every single newspaper that's available in the city. And then they'd scan through the news and everybody would pick up something. The idea of movers and shakers, what you take factual news and spin it into a joke. So there was nothing that was non-factual in that. It was completely like they have in basically in the Jay Leno show. It's basically a factual show. So the whole show was based on the Leno Saturday Night Live. We had a band, we had everything and stuff like that. So that's how that happened, and then it went to become the biggest show in the country. It topped all charts and everything. But there was another show I did. I don't know if you're aware of it, which was a Doordarshan show with Javed Jaffrey and his father, called Truck Dhena Din. It's a great show. It was again it was a Gana wala show, but we used to take, say, Barish Ka songs. So all the Barish Ka songs, and we used to write an episode around the Barish Ka song. And Javed and Jagdeep uncle, they were Mama Bhanja, they were truck drivers, and they used to drive from place to place and whatever, and stories would happen. So that's how it was. So that was also another great show. That was also very, very high up on the Doordarshan ka TRP. And the other television that I really loved, which I did 7 of them, was Saturday Suspense. Saturday Suspense was actually one standalone suspense stories, So I had done 7 of them, out of which one was called Wajood with Mohan Kapoor, with Meeta Vashisht, Rajendra Gupta. Of course, it was a copy. It was a copy from Ransom, but it was great, And I think the year 99 was very lucky for me because I got the Best Thriller Award. I got the Best Talk Show Award. I got the Best Music Show Award. So we got I think 4 RAPA awards that year, for Movers and Shakers, for Harmony, for Wajood, and I think one more that we had done. So television was fun, yeah. Very stressful.
We've seen that there are a lot of people from Jamshedpur who are today in the entertainment industry, Bollywood.
Yes.
Any plans with the other names in Bollywood or the entertainment industry today for collaborating for a project? Maybe a larger project that has. Maybe
later. You see, look. Let's say talk of the actors. I mean, Rasika Duggal has shown interest in the script which I want to do. So Rasika again she's my junior from FTII, so she's like that. I'm trying to see if I can get a cast as close to Bihar as possible, or Jharkhand. That is one thing I was trying. I'm even trying to get my rest of my crew. There is a student who's ex-student now, who's passed out of FTI. He's from Jamshedpur again, or Ranchi, one of the places, where he's an editor. So I would like him to come on as an online editor while we are shooting. I want to take him so I'm trying to see if I can get a lot of people from Jamshedpur. I want to cast in Jamshedpur. The story is about 2 9-year-old kids. So I don't want to carry a 9-year-old boy from Bombay. I want a kid who's local. So if the money comes through, I'm waiting for it to happen. This is one script that has always gone around, come up to my nose and has fallen down. I've had this script with me for 7-8 years, and hopefully it'll happen now. So let's see.
Yes.
So once that happens, of course, I want it to happen in Jamshedpur. Yes, completely. I think that's my payback to the city.
So that's superb. Okay, so I think we've overshot the time, and I don't want
I'm sure.
But before we wrap up, when you're not talking films, thinking films, what keeps you busy, or what do you like to do in your leisure time?
I walk. I love walking. I mean, even now, the moment I finish, I've got these 4 mutts. I'll take them at the field at the back of my house. I'm a very outdoor person, so I enjoy it. I cycle. I do a lot of things. I like chatting up with friends. I mean, we have a great group of Loyola 71. So we are continuously chatting. Everybody is at it. I've got some great friends in Jamshedpur. And I'm quite happy by myself. I watch a film occasionally. I'm not an avid film watcher. like my wife is. I like to roam around here. My bike is gone for repairs. It's being redone now. Once that starts off, I'm going to take off. I've got a 1982 Bullet, so I'm just going to take off and not come back for a long time. So maybe I'll drive up to Jamshedpur.
That's a good idea. In fact, on the road, maybe you'll meet your potential cast for the film. All you know, where you stop.
I'm looking for a potential producer. Hopefully,
that I'm sure you'll get.
I bang into a Mercedes that's loaded with the cash.
No, I'm sure you'll get. In fact, whoever is watching this will definitely wish that we get to see the final film that you have in mind on screen.
Sure.
Hopefully that should be very soon.
No, it should be wonderful. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Good. So that's about it, Mahesh sir, from your end, and hopefully, you've actually, through the conversation, you made people nostalgic about a lot of things, not just Jamshedpur, but some of the ads that we've grown up, especially the ad, the Fevicol, the Jod, the fish one, and of course Amir Khan's Coke with ads. It's all in the memory, and you made us all very nostalgic about it. I'm hoping more success comes to you in your films, your projects. We'll all be looking forward to it. And thank you once again, Mahesh sir, for your time today.
And thank you for having me. I mean, it was great fun. And I wish you lots of success on your show. It's great fun.